Hey, what's up? Dr. Dave Det1. So today I want to introduce the model that I developed that's really the theoretical framework for all of the work that we do in all the environments. That's including the tactical, the corporate world, and with athletes. So I'm just going to briefly touch on this model because I have 10 minutes to explain something that's really taken me 15 plus years to develop. So briefly, we're going to skim the surface and just kind of introduce it. That being said, there's actually a lot of depth behind this model. Each one of these steps, I could probably teach a full day's academic course on what's behind them, how you develop, and how you progress to the next level. But again, Instagram, we've got 10 minutes, so we're just going to keep it short and sweet here. So I call this model the Building the Warrior model. And where I got that title was from the Greek quote Heraclitus. And I'm just going to paraphrase it here, but he said, out of 100 men in a battle, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets, 9 are the fighters, and we need those because those are the guys who make the battle. But there's one that he calls the warrior, and that's the one that's going to bring everybody back, right? And so that's what we got here. As you progress up my model, you'll see as the warrior is the top tier. So let's get into it. So again, it's called Building the Warrior, and we got 3 sections here. We got the ethos, the essence, and the education. So the ethos really is just the fundamental character, right? The essence are those intrinsic qualities that make that character. And finally, we've got education, and I define education as a systematic, outcomes-based training process to develop practical tactics, techniques, and procedures in real time. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom. So you'll see at the bottom we have talent, right? So the first is talent, and the essence of talent is ability. And I define ability as whether it's real, native, or acquired, your ability to do something. So you can perform a task, right? And then we got skill. And I define skill as the ability to use the right technique at the right time. And you'll see here, I got this red line, right? Because we're talking about elite performance here. And so talent alone is not even close to enough. Talent gets you in the door, as you'll see here. So, at the level that I'm at, whether it's tier 1 level, whether you're at working in the NFL, whether you're at corporate sales training, you're trying to make it to the top of your game, everyone is talented. Right? When I sit in a room with the Dallas Cowboys and I look around, everyone's fast, everyone's strong, everyone has the ability to, they were all the big fishes in a little pond. So now they all have that same thing. So everyone's got that, right? So that's the default. That just gets you in the door, right? The next level is what I call the recruit. And the recruit is really a student of the game. And what the essence comes down to, what it comes down to is, are they coachable, right? And I define coachability as the ability to take feedback and apply it in real time, right? And apply it in a method or a manner and a time frame that makes it useful. And so what is the education? The first thing I'm looking for is, are they a rock or a sponge, right? And I borrowed this from some of my British friends. They say, what's between their ears? So they got a rock between their ears, or is it a sponge, right? Is it the type of person that absorbs information, or is it as information comes, it just bounces off and it doesn't get in? And so this is a really important part of the model. And so these are the students of the game. And from what I've found is the elite performers, when you introduce a concept to them, right, as a coach, you introduce something new, a new piece of equipment, a new weapon system, a new sales technique, a new whatever, right? These are the people that go home and the next day they come back and they may know just as much or more than you do, right? And so they really push their coaching staff or their training staff or whoever to be better, right, to key up in the game. And that's super important. A lot of my friends out there who aren't school people, like myself, I'm not a school guy, aren't going to like this, but I really think that 25% of training should be spent in some type of academic classroom environment, or at least studying plays, studying new sales techniques, studying a new weapon system, studying stuff to make you better, studying to get you as a better coach, right? So really spending that time in the classroom to become a student of the game. And as you find when you get up here or you talk to those warriors, their knowledge level about whatever their area of performance is tremendous most of the time. So that's where we get this recruit. So the next level I call the fighter, right? And the fighter is super important. And most people in any elite level, they fall in this category. And what the essence is, what the criteria is what I call performance in extremis, which is really just a fancy way of saying being able to perform under pressure. Right? It means at the edge of death, extremists, but being able to perform under pressure. And so what I call the education there is the what's important now. So the ability, these people, the fighters, have the ability to take in a tremendous amount of information in real time in a tremendously pressure environment and prioritize what is the one thing that I need to focus upon that's going to give me the most relevant feedback so that I can act upon it, so I can be my best, right? So the key to this, what makes these people different, so this is the practice player. They're awesome. They know everything there is to know about the sport. But when you put them under pressure, they may not be able to perform. These people have this knowledge. Under pressure, they can perform. Now, how do you get good at this, right? The only way to get good at performing under pressure is to put yourself under pressure and perform under pressure, right? And so, again, I talked about there's a lot of depth to this. I have a whole model that really talks about training at the edge of the line of failure and where you want to train to make sure that you're under pressure and you become comfortable being uncomfortable. And again, like I said, most of the performers, even at the elite levels, they fall in this category. And that's a solid thing. You have a team full of fighters, you're going to do all right. But then we get to this next level, the pinnacle, right? What I call the warrior. And the essence of the warrior is willpower, right? And that comes down to ABC, always be competitive, right? So you got to be competitive with yourself, you got to be competitive with your teammates, you got to be competitive with the competition to get better. And why willpower is so important is there's something I call directed mental force, right? And so by choosing what you want to focus your attention on, you have the ability to direct that force. Now, that's not only a psychological intervention, right? It's not only just a mind thing, but it's actually a biological one, right? And what that means is by choosing where to focus your attention, you can actually change the structure of your brain, right? So change the plasticity of the neurons. The caveat is, though, and this is where willpower comes in, attention must be paid, right? So this is what the mindfulness people call wise attention, or the sport people call purposeful, meaningful practice, right? So you have to be able to develop and devote your full attention to that thing, that stimulus on getting better. And that's where the willpower comes in. And this is also where, I've had countless conversations with sergeant majors, and the sergeant major will say, so you're telling me that adding more hours to the training schedule isn't going to make them better? And I'll sit there 100% yes, sergeant major, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Because you can't perform at the level, you can't maintain that attention at the level you need to induce those neuroplasticity changes for a long amount of time. It's miserable, right? It's not enjoyable. And that's where the willpower comes in. And they always be competitive. And that really comes down, in my mind, to attitude. And I do believe that attitude, like all this stuff, can be developed, right? So I went over it kind of quickly, and just let me summarize again. So when it comes down to talent and ability, that's really characterized by that, talented. You got to be good. To get you in the door, you got to be fast, you got to be strong, you got to be smart, you got to be able to shoot well, you got to be able to apply the right technique at the right time. You got to be able to do it. But that's not even close to enough. When it comes down to the next phase, the recruit, you got to know how to learn. You got to be excited about learning. You got to figure out a way to teach yourself really in-depth knowledge of the game. Then we come down to the fighter, and that is all about performing under pressure, or what, again, some of the Brits call the teacup, thinking correctly under pressure. And so that's the difference. You got to be able to make those decisions when there's tons of stress on you, because that's what's important. And finally, when it comes down to the warrior, that's characterized by plain old-fashioned hard work. Now, not the generic definition of hard work, but we're talking about mindful, miserable, tedious practice, purposeful practice, focusing on everything that's in there. So this is the model, Building the Warrior. Again, we use this as the theoretical framework for almost everything we do. I'd love to talk more about this in the comments section. We can have lots of conversations. If you have any questions, we can go in depth. I imagine this is going to come out in a book at some point. So if anyone out there has any ins with publishers, send them my way, because I'm ready to go on that. So again, thanks for your time. I hope you got some knowledge from this, and I look forward to talking to you again.